You're listening to GWP Live. It's Sunday, March 15th, 2026, and it is 6:35 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and we are providing another update on the ongoing hazardous weather that is occurring across the state of Missouri. So we have the ongoing severe weather threat in the southeastern portion of the state, as well as the snow squalls as they continue to move in across our region. So we're going to give you an update on everything you need to know regarding that. So we'll go ahead and we'll start off just by looking at some of the different alerts that we have out here at this point in time. So, of course, we've got blizzard warnings to our north across Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. This is where we're getting in on some of that heavier snowfall. We've had a couple inches of accumulation across Iowa and Illinois, across Nebraska, and then even a couple of feet as you go further towards the north, where we've even had blizzard conditions that was reported earlier today in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We also have some ice across northern Michigan, so ice storm warnings in effect for a half an inch of ice through tonight across that region as well. Then we've got the various different wind alerts. We've got high wind alerts across the state of Montana, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Colorado, and many other states also under those wind advisories, including us here in Missouri. We've got winter weather advisories in northern Missouri where we've got some of that heavier accumulating snow. We've got the severe weather threat ongoing, tornado watches across Illinois, Indiana, as well as into Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and into Texas as well. Multiple severe and tornado warnings within those tornado watches. Freeze watches, where we have the extremely cold temperatures that are going to be coming in on the backside of the storm system. Those are across the Stargar Blue, across Alabama, and around Florida here into Georgia as well as Texas. Then we've got the ongoing fire threat across Texas into Louisiana and New Mexico. And then we also have some blowing dust or a blowing dust advisory across western Texas where we've had near zero visibility at times due to some of the blowing dust that has been kicked up by some of those winds across the western portion of Texas. So we have a fire threat and then that blowing dust across that region. Additional winter alerts and also some coastal flood alerts along New England here. And then we've got some heat advisories and extreme heat warnings and watches across the desert Southwest, where temperatures later this week are going to be in the triple digits. And then, of course, we've got the flooding and high winds in Hawaii, and then heavy snowfall in southern Alaska. Juneau, Alaska, expecting to pick up close to a foot of snowfall later tonight. That's for southeastern Alaska. So all sorts of different weather alerts here. Of course, this is from the National Weather Service showing you those different weather alerts. And you'll notice that every single state is highlighted except for Utah. Utah is the only state that does not have some variety of winter weather alerts. So 49 out of 50 states in the U.S. currently have some form of weather alerts from all of the different systems here and impacts from this one big storm system here across the center of the country that we're dealing with. So, of course, earlier today we had some strong winds. We even had tornado warnings not that long ago in St. Louis. That was all ahead of this cold front that has dropped off temperatures from the 60s earlier this afternoon to where they are right now, which is the 30s across the state of Missouri. And that has led to some heavier amounts of snowfall, as we've even had some snow squall warnings, including one that we currently have in effect across southwestern Missouri, including Springfield. This is what we're going to be taking a look at here. Snow squall warning in effect for Webster, Dallas, Christian, LaSalle, Polk, Greene, and Dade counties, all under this snow squall warning. Again, this was issued by the National Weather Service there in the Springfield area because at 6:24, a dangerous snow squall was located over Willard, moving or around 9 miles northwest of Springfield, in case you don't know where Willard is, kind of in that area. And it's moving towards the east at 50 miles per hour. And so this has now been observed by web cameras. And so we now know that visibility has been reduced to under a mile at times. We're talking about some intense bursts of heavy snow. Gusty winds could lead to rapidly falling visibilities. Now, again, we've talked about this a little bit, but it's not the importance of this is not the fact that we're dealing with snow, and it's not about really road conditions themselves. It's about the visibility out there on the roads. That's what our really big concern is going to be. Snowfall will accumulate potentially quickly on the roadways if it comes down heavy enough. That being said, so far, all of our roads in the state of Missouri overall are pretty clear at this point in time. Of course, we've had a few patchy areas that we've had to continue to deal with, but overall, we've seen mostly clear road conditions. It's more the concern of reduced visibility and the strong gusty winds reducing visibility on top of that. So that's one of our big concerns that we have. Now you'll notice that we do have the snow squall warning in the same area in which we had the first severe thunderstorm warning of the day earlier today. Lebanon, Missouri is where we had our first severe thunderstorm warning earlier today, and now we're under a snow squall warning. So just really kind of crazy to see just how strong of a cold front this is. We've gone from severe thunderstorms in the early afternoon hours across central Missouri to snow squalls, reducing visibility to less than a quarter of a mile at times. So again, if you're traveling across this region along Interstate 44, US 65, Missouri State Highway 13, along US 60, you need to watch out because reduced visibilities could happen at times because of the intense snow squalls that are moving through across this region. So this is something that you want to pay very close attention to if you're going to be traveling across this area. You'll notice we had some snow squall warnings across Joplin earlier today. Those have now expired as the end of the snow has ended across Joplin as well as into Nevada. Still some light snow falling across some of those areas over into Kansas City. We've got some light snow falling at this point in time. But the heavier snow again is in that snow squall warning moving through Lake of the Ozarks along US 54. We've got some heavy snow moving in. Jefferson City is kind of a spot where we have some lighter snow, but snowfall is about to pick up across Jefferson City there. So that heavier snowfall is just to the west of Jefferson City. Columbia, snowfall has really picked up. The winds have also picked up. I am currently looking outside and conditions have definitely worsened. The snowfall is starting to accumulate on the grassy and elevated surfaces, and currently roads appear to be clear at this point in time, but some of those more elevated surfaces we're starting to get some accumulation. So if you are going to be traveling across these areas, reduce visibilities at times. I would say right now our visibility is, let's see, probably say we've got at least a mile of visibility, maybe a little bit more than that. So visibility is not too bad at this time here in Columbia, but just to our west of Columbia along Interstate 70, we've got some pretty heavier snowfall. And so that means that you're going to have even more reduced visibility. So again, the wind is what's really making this a troublemaker. This storm system probably would not be as big of a deal if it wasn't for the fact that we're going to have some of those heavier winds. But again, here's kind of that area at this point in time where we're getting some of that heavier snow, and then the heavier snow also extends towards the Lake of the Ozarks. So of course, you've got your cold front over here. So that's now moved through the St. Louis area. Temperatures have dropped off quite a bit in St. Louis. And then now we've got that line of thunderstorms over here where we got that tornado and severe thunderstorm risk. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. Cold front. No, cold front's more over here. This is kind of that cold front right here. Got severe thunderstorms ahead of it, ongoing tornado threat. Currently, no tornadoes have been reported at this point in time. So you've got severe weather over there, cold front, much colder temperatures. The last time I checked, we were at about 50 degrees in St. Louis, about 40 degrees to the west of St. Louis, and now we're at about 32, 33 degrees here in central Missouri. And so that's allowing for this heavier snowfall is starting to accumulate here across the region. We've also got another band of snowfall that's moving through Kansas City. So if you're going to be traveling across these areas, we are going to start to see some accumulation on the roads simply because now the surface temperatures have cooled. So a lot of this is probably going to start reaching the ground where it wasn't necessarily reaching the ground before. And then some lighter snow across northeastern Kansas. That's going to be tapering off within the next couple of hours. But at least here across the state of Missouri, especially central, northern, and eastern Missouri, we still have several more hours of snowfall. And again, it will be heavy at times, and it is going to start to accumulate. Again, I know that here in Columbia, it is starting to accumulate, at least on the elevated surfaces. So that is something that we're going to have to continue to watch as we go through the next couple hours. As far as travel impacts, again, I think the biggest impact is going to be snow squalls blowing snow. I think that's really our biggest concern. And as of this point in time, the only snow squall warning that we have is that one here in Springfield and Lebanon. But of course, this is over a really large area. Like you've got Willard, you got Pleasant Hope, you got Marshfield, Phillipsburg, Buffalo, Fairgrove. Then you go into Republic as well, is under that. It looks like we're just to the north of Ozark, Missouri there. And then you go along Highway 60 as well. So we've got a couple of smaller towns there along US 60 as well that are impacted by this. And then even up into the Lebanon area as well. This is just to the south of 54, although we are still getting some heavy snow across Max Creek. So if you're traveling along US 54, Camdenton, Lake of the Ozarks, getting in on some very heavy snowfall in Eldon right now. So again, it's going to reduce visibilities at times, but again, as far as overall accumulation, that's going to be on the lower side of things. So accumulation is not going to be or is not where we're going to have the impacts. The impacts are not going to come from accumulation. They're going to come from the reduced visibilities because of those heavier winds that we are going to be experiencing here. So that is really what our main concern is going to be as we go forward in time. All right, let's see. Do we have any additional warnings? Again, I'm kind of surprised here that we don't have a snow squall warning for this area in Jefferson City. We've got some heavier snow. So if you're traveling across this area, I would definitely be very careful here across California, all the way over to Jefferson City and then over to Holt Summit. We've got some heavier snow into Callaway County, just to the east of Jefferson City as well. So over into Boone County as well, across Columbia here. In fact, just looking outside here again, the snow has gotten a little bit heavier since we've started this live stream here, indicating that this next heavy band of snow is about to move in, reducing visibilities at times. Again, all of that severe weather is further towards our east, but we certainly have quite a bit going on here. We've got 30 severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got 9 active tornado warnings at this point in time. Looks like we've got a couple just to the east of Springfield, Illinois at this point in time. Of course, this is out of the viewing area. We've got some near the Cape Girardeau over into Carbondale, Illinois. So we've got some warnings across northeastern Arkansas, just to the northeast of Jonesboro along Interstate 55. And then we've got additional warnings. This is about to move into Memphis. Of course, that's a more populated area. Little Rock, you just saw the cold front, so you're done with the severe weather. But just to your east and your south, we've got some heavier, we've actually got some more discrete cells that are beginning to develop. So that is, of course, something that we're going to have to continue to watch with these individual supercells that could begin to rotate, like this one that we have right here across southeastern Arkansas. In fact, let's see if we can just get a little bit more information on that particular tornado warning. I'm curious. Okay, so radar indicated. So at this point in time, it's not confirmed, but certainly right there, it looks like a pretty good rotation in there. So that's something that we'll have to watch. And then even another tornado warning, even as far south as Texas and extending down into Houston. So from all the way to Houston, all the way to just north or around Bloomington, Illinois, all the way to Houston, Texas, we have a line of severe thunderstorms, and we have just about a continuous line of severe thunderstorm warnings all the way from Houston to Bloomington, Illinois. Almost, not quite a continuous line, but just about a continuous line of severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing across that region. Again, we've got tornado watches for the next several hours. The good news here is that a lot of those are starting to expire here across the state of Missouri. But again, southeastern Missouri really getting involved in some of the heavier storms here. So again, we've got snow squall warnings and tornado warnings all at the same time here in the state of Missouri. Of course, at different locations, but still just showing the nature of just how powerful of a storm system this is that we are currently dealing with at this point in time here. So I'm just looking to see if we have any new updates here. I'm just going to look at that snow squall warning again, just to see if we have anything new. Not at this point in time, but again, snow squall warnings still going to affect Webster, Taos, into Christian. Greene counties, of course, is also included in that, and Greene County is in the Springfield area. So the Springfield, Missouri area is currently under a snow squall warning, and then while we're dealing with severe thunderstorms around Springfield, Illinois. So again, quite the contrast, not that far away at this point in time. So again, we're getting into some of that heavier snow right now in Jefferson City and Columbia. As of right now, I wouldn't really call this heavy snow, but I would definitely call it more moderate snow. It's a little bit heavier than what we were experiencing earlier. Temperatures have now dropped to around the freezing mark, and so that is why we are starting to see some of those accumulations at this point in time, especially on the more elevated surfaces, as we mentioned previously here. So, all right, going back to the severe weather threat. Again, this is going to be further towards our east, but this is something we're going to have to continue to contend with as we go through the overnight hours. This will likely be an all-night event, especially across the deep south here into Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Likely going to have that severe weather threat well into the overnight hours, if not all night. So that's something we need to watch here. Large area where we're going to be dealing with that tornado risk. I would say at this point in time, we've probably hit kind of on the higher end of that tornado risk that we're going to have for today. I would say between now and about midnight, that's when you're going to have the highest risk for tornadoes, simply because we're dealing with those discrete supercells across Arkansas, Mississippi, as well as into Tennessee. But of course, the wind threat, that is going to be the number one threat that we're tracking with the severe weather today, really even outside the severe weather threat, because those winds are what reducing the visibility within those snow squalls. So wind, wind, wind. That is the big story that we're trying to sell you today. That is going to be the really big danger. Wind inside the thunderstorms, wind outside the thunderstorms. That's something to continue to watch. All right. So, what about tomorrow? Again, tomorrow we have a moderate severe weather risk here across eastern U.S. here along Interstate 95. This is something we really need to watch for those that are going to be traveling along Interstate 95 or to one of the airports along the East Coast. Of course, I know that a lot of local school districts across the state of Missouri, there's a lot that are currently on spring break. We also have some colleges as well. So, it's very well possible that people may be traveling for spring break. So I know various different people who are traveling, and I don't necessarily know anybody traveling across this region, but I know people traveling other places. So it's very well possible that it is that time of year. So people could be traveling across this region. So if you know anybody or you are going to be in this area, just let them know or be aware if it's yourself that we are going to be dealing with that severe weather as we go into tomorrow. Very heightened risk for tornadoes as well as wind. That's going to be the big concern. And we've got that significant one intensity level for 22 million people could be looking at or under. Let me rephrase that. About 23 million people are under the risk for 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts or greater within these thunderstorms tomorrow. That does include Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia Beach, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Norfolk, Virginia. So if you're in any of those areas, be aware because some of the thunderstorms that we have tomorrow could contain 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts or potentially even stronger, 80 or 90 or even 100 miles per hour is going to be on the table as we go into tomorrow. So make sure that you are aware of that across that area. So, all right, so that's the severe weather threat that we have. Let's see, we've also got that fire risk, as we mentioned, across Texas, as well as reduced visibilities from the blowing dust. So that's something we're dealing with here across New Mexico, West Central Texas, including Lubbock and Amarillo. We do have that critical fire risk as we go through today. What about as we go into tomorrow? No games here for us as we have a critical fire risk across southern Texas for Brownsville and into Corpus Christi here, elevated fire risk into Austin, Texas, as well as eastern New Mexico and western Texas as well as we go through tomorrow. And again, through the rest of this evening, we will have that risk for reduced visibilities with blowing dust, some of those stronger winds kicking up that dust and moving it around, reducing visibilities on highways. We've had reports of near zero visibility. So if the blizzards and the snow squalls and the severe thunderstorms, if that wasn't enough wind for you, we also have reduced visibilities from wind across Texas from dust. So we've got dust, snow, and rain all reducing visibilities at various different locations. Some locations even seeing a couple of those within the same day. As we mentioned, some of the areas that had reduced visibility from thunderstorms are now dealing with reduced visibilities from snow squalls. So just quite a strong and powerful spring setup that we have that is leading to all sorts of different hazards here across the country here, and wow, the intensity of that snowfall has really picked up here in Columbia. So I just want to let anybody know, if you are traveling across any of these areas that we have highlighted here across the state of Missouri, you need to be very careful out there. Again, we've still got that snow squall warning in effect for the Springfield area until 7 o'clock this evening, but we also have some very intense snowfall that is coming down here from Jefferson City to Columbia. So if you are in the Jefferson City, Columbia area, make sure that if you are out on those roadways that you slow down, because we are talking about some reduced visibilities from blowing heavy amounts of snowfall that are coming down. I would say that our visibility is probably down to about a half a mile at this point in time, and that snowfall is starting to accumulate as well. So that is something that we're going to have to continue to watch as we go forward in time. So, anytime we're dealing with this amount of wind, there's going to be another threat that we deal with, which is, or I guess, the risk for power outages. That's something that we've been dealing with as well. So, let's look at the latest on our power outages. This is for poweroutage.com. You'll notice that we have multiple states that have at least 50,000 customers without power. We have Texas currently at 51,000 customers. We've got Arkansas at about 51,000 as well. Ohio is 57,000. Pennsylvania has the most power outages at about 68,000 customers that are currently without power at this point in time. We've got Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Oklahoma that also have at least 10,000 power outages at this point in time. So that is something that we also need to continue to watch. I will say here, at least in Missouri, we don't have too many power outages, about 7,000 customers without power across the area. So I'm going to go ahead and check no, because we do currently have power at this point in time. All right. So let's go back to the radar here, just showing you again, just some very heavy snowfall. Again, I'm looking at it right now. And so all right, we are going to stay live here, but I'm going to briefly stop talking for just one moment so I can reset for the top of the hour. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes, but we're going to stay live. Here's a live look at that radar. All right. And so we are back live here again. I guess we've been on the live stream this entire time, of course, but we're back here, or I'm back here talking here. So it is now 7 p.m. here on Sunday, March 15th, 2026 here. And, and so, yeah, we've got, just 1 second here. All right, and so now we are back here. Just had some momentarily technical difficulties here. And wow, this is the heaviest snow that we have had here in Columbia so far, probably all season, but definitely throughout the duration of this storm here. We are picking up, I mean, I would say we're down to probably quarter mile visibility, I have to say. Yeah, we're at about quarter mile visibility. So we are in some very intense snowfall at this point in time. I will tell you right now, if there is somebody who is out on the roads, and I'm sure that there are at 7 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday night here in Columbia, they are experiencing some very, very difficult conditions right now because we have some very heavy snowfall at this point in time. And so it's really starting to accumulate as well across this area. So, really, from Columbia over to Moberly, along US 24, Interstate 70, US 54, here we are experiencing some very difficult travel conditions at this point in time. So, if you are across any of these areas, make sure that you are slowing down. Now, at this point in time, we don't have any alerts. And so, for that reason, we're going to go ahead and end the live stream. But again, make sure that you are staying safe as we've got chances for very heavy snowfall over the next couple of hours.